I'm Olivia. At my dad's birthday party, a room full of rich people called me the secretary. Like it was an insult they could laugh at. They didn't just embarrass me, they used me, lied about me, and tried to erase me from my own family story. But one email, one projector screen, and one public file later, their smiles dropped like glass. Because the truth wasn't that I worked for them. The truth was, they'd been living in my shadow the whole time. The first thing you should know about my father is that he loved appearances more than comfort. He didn't care if the food was cold, as long as the plates looked expensive. He didn't care if the laughter was fake, as long as it was loud. My dad, Richard Hale, was the kind of man who believed that if something looked successful, it was successful. So when he decided to throw his 60th birthday party at the Westbridge Club, one of those private venues with velvet chairs and silent waiters, I already knew what the night would be about, not family status. And like always, I was expected to play my part. I arrived early because I'd been asked to help, which in my family meant do everything while everyone else drinks and takes credit. I wore a simple black dress and low heels, nothing flashy. My hair was neatly pinned back. I carried a small leather folder, because I had the habit of organizing my thoughts the way other people organized their jewelry. At the entrance, a young hostess glanced at my outfit and immediately smiled in a way that made my stomach tighten. "Oh good," she said, handing me a clipboard. "The staff is arriving. Can you start with the seating cards?" I didn't correct her, not because I was ashamed, because I've learned that people show you their true character when they think you're less. And tonight, I wanted to see everyone clearly. Inside the main hall, the room was dressed like a magazine photo shoot. White orchids, crystal candles, a massive banner that said Richard Hale, 60 years of legacy. Legacy. The word made me want to laugh, because my father's legacy was built on a foundation of my mother's sacrifice and my silence. I placed the seating cards on the table and began sorting them alphabetically. That's when I heard heels clicking behind me. "Olivia," a woman's voice sang, sweet like poison. I looked up to see Vanessa Hale, my stepmother, gliding toward me in a champagne-colored gown that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Vanessa's smile was practice-perfect, polished, empty. "Oh good," she said, looking me up and down. "You're dressed appropriately, not I appreciate that." I kept my face neutral. "Where do you want the gift table?" Vanessa waved a hand like she was brushing away dust. "Over there." "And Olivia, try not to hover around the guests. People might get confused." "Confused about what?" I asked. She leaned closer, voice low. "About who belongs here." That sentence hit like a slap, but I didn't react. I just nodded and moved the gift table. Behind Vanessa, my stepbrother Ethan entered with his girlfriend Sabrina, both of them wearing matching smug expressions. Ethan had always been my father's pride, even though he never built anything on his own. He just knew how to stand beside success and call it his. Sabrina spotted me and laughed. "Olivia," she called, waving like we were friends. "Can you take a picture of us by the cake? The lighting is perfect." I stared at her. "There are photographers." She smirked. "Oh, but you're already working anyway." "Working." That word. I took the phone from her without a fight and snapped the picture. Ethan didn't even say thank you. He just adjusted his tie and turned away like I was furniture. As the guests arrived, the energy shifted into that familiar rich person buzz, loud enough to seem fun, controlled enough to remain cruel. Men in tailored suits, women dripping in diamonds, laughter that sounded like competition. I stood near the bar, handing the bartender a list of my father's important guests. When I heard it, a woman's voice behind me. "Is that Richard's secretary?" Another voice replied, amused. "No, that's his daughter." "Well, I guess she's more like his assistant now." My hands froze. I turned slowly and saw two women, mid-50s, expensive hair, expensive faces. One of them was Lydia Monroe, a business partner's wife. The other was Caroline Voss, someone who always talked too loudly because she thought volume was authority. Caroline saw me looking and smiled brightly. Fake friendly. "Hi, I'm sorry, are you the secretary?" "Richard's secretary, right? You're so organized." I swallowed. "I'm Olivia, Richard's daughter." The silence that followed was sharp. Lydia's eyebrows lifted like she couldn't believe it. "Oh, really?" Caroline's laugh came out too quick. "Well, you just seem so helpful." Helpful. That's how they disguise disrespect. Before I could respond, Vanessa appeared like she'd been summoned by gossip. "Ladies," she said, beaming. Isn't she wonderful? Olivia always offers to handle the little details. She's like the backbone of our events. Backbone. Like I wasn't a person. Like I didn't have my own life. I looked at Vanessa, then at Caroline and Lydia, and in that moment, something inside me clicked into place. Not anger, something colder, something clearer. Because I realized they were comfortable humiliating me. Because they truly believed I had no power. And the truth was, I had been letting them believe that for years. When I was 16, my mother Diane died from a sudden stroke. One day she was teaching me how to balance a checkbook, laughing about how my father spent money like it was water. The next day, she was gone. My father mourned for exactly 3 months before Vanessa entered our home. Like she'd always lived there, Vanessa wasn't just a new wife. She was a takeover. She changed the furniture, the colors, the rules. She turned my father into someone I barely recognized. And somehow, slowly, I became the extra person in my own family. 18. I moved out for college with a scholarship. I started working at a financial firm not because I loved money, but because I loved control. Numbers made sense. Numbers didn't lie. Numbers didn't smile while hurting you. I learned investing. I learned strategy. I learned patience. And while my father was busy celebrating his legacy, I was quietly building my own. Not flashy, not loud, just smart. I never bragged because I didn't need to. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell anyone at family dinners. I let them underestimate me because it kept things simple. Until tonight. Tonight they didn't just underestimate me. They tried to erase me at dinner. I was placed at a side table with distant relatives and someone's teenage kid who spilled soda on my napkin. Vanessa sat beside my father at the center, shimmering like a trophy. Ethan sat on the other side, laughing too loudly at jokes he didn't understand. And I watched my father smile. Not once did he look toward me. Not once did he ask if I was okay. He raised his glass and gave a speech about family and loyalty. And I felt something bitter rise in my throat. Came the toast portion where guests stood up one by one and praised Richard's success like he was a king. Caroline Voss stood, tapping her glass dramatically. Richard, she began. You've built such an incredible empire. You've taught your son Ethan so much. And of course, her eyes slid toward me, and her smile widened. You've raised a wonderful secretary's daughter. The table laughed. A few people looked uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to stop it. My father chuckled too. That was the moment I knew. Not suspected, not hoped. Knew. Richard Hale was never going to defend me. So I would defend myself. When the dinner ended and dessert arrived, Vanessa stood to signal the special presentation. A projector screen lit up behind the cake. This year, Vanessa announced, Richard wanted to share a look at the future of Hale Holdings. Ah, there it was. The reason I'd been asked to show up early. The reason Vanessa was acting extra smug. The reason Ethan looked like a kid about to open a gift. Vanessa clicked a remote. A file opened on the screen labeled. My father smiled proudly. We're planning a major investment move, he said, and I'm excited to introduce Ethan's role in leading it. Ethan stood, buttoning his suit like he'd just won something. But when Vanessa clicked to the next slide, something went wrong. A message popped up. Vanessa's smile faltered. That's strange. She clicked again. The screen changed, not to the company presentation. To a different document. A clean, professional dashboard with charts and numbers. The title read. The room went silent. My heart beat once, hard. Vanessa's face went pale. So fast I thought she might faint. Ethan blinked like he couldn't process words. My father stood up slowly. What is this? He demanded, voice sharp. I didn't move yet. I let the silence stretch. I let the room stare. And then, calm as a still lake, I stood up. That, I said, is mine. A murmur rippled through the guests like wind. Caroline Voss gasped. Is that real? Lydia Monroe leaned forward, eyes narrow, suddenly interested. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed, like she was choking on disbelief. My father's face tightened. Olivia, he said, what are you doing? I looked at him with a softness I no longer felt. I'm doing what you taught Ethan to do, I replied. Protecting my future. Ethan snapped. This is a private family event. Why would you put this on the screen? I tilted my head. Funny because I didn't. Vanessa shook her head quickly. This is sabotage. Someone hacked the system. I stepped closer to the screen, pointing at the bottom corner, where a small line read. Then I turned to Vanessa. Remember when you asked me to help with the little details? I asked. voice steady. I noticed you've been using my mother's old estate email to send documents, the one you shouldn't have access to. Vanessa's eyes widened. You shouldn't have access to. Vanessa's eyes widened. I continued. That account is still tied to a trust my mother created, a trust you never told my father about, a trust you assumed was empty. My father's eyes snapped to Vanessa. What trust? Vanessa stammered. Richard, I cut in, voice sharper now. My mother left me inheritance. I said, not to be spent, not to be controlled, to be invested. And I've been investing it for years. The screen displayed a clean total. I won't give the exact number, but it was enough that several people visibly sat up straighter. Caroline whispered, oh my God. Lydia's husband leaned toward my father, suddenly serious. Ethan looked like he'd swallowed ice. I met my father's eyes. You laughed when they called me secretary, I said, but while you were busy building appearances, I was building assets. Vanessa suddenly snapped. She's lying. She's trying to embarrass us. I turned, and for the first time, I let my anger show. No, I said, you embarrassed yourselves. You used my mother's account. You treated me like unpaid staff. You tried to parade Ethan as the future while stealing from the past. The room was dead quiet now. My father's hands trembled slightly. Olivia, he said, voice low. Did you know about this? I took a breath, and my voice softened again. Yes, I said, and I also know something else. Vanessa stiffened. I clicked a button on the remote because I had taken it earlier when the host asked me to help. Another slide appeared. Dates, amounts, transfers, all, pointing to Vanessa. Gasps erupted. Ethan's face went red. Mom, what is that? Vanessa looked around, desperate. It's not what it looks like. I looked at my father. It looks like theft, I said quietly. From my mother's estate. My father stared at the screen, then at Vanessa, like he was seeing her for the first time. Vanessa, he said, voice breaking. Tell me this isn't true. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Richard, listen, this is just Olivia being dramatic. She hates me. She's always hated me. I pulled my arm back like the accusation was laughable. I didn't hate you, I said. I feared you. There's a difference. You came into my home and turned me into a shadow. Then I looked at the guests. And you, I said, calm again, laughed because you thought I had no worth unless a man gave it to me. Caroline's cheeks flushed. Lydia looked away. The room felt different now. Not amused, uncomfortable, respectful, in the way people become respectful when they realize they misjudged someone dangerous. My father sat down slowly, like his legs stopped working. Ethan whispered, Dad, but my father didn't look at him, he only looked at me. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, voice small. Because you wouldn't have listened, I thought. But I didn't say that. Instead, I said, because you never asked. That line hung in the air like a verdict. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a drink. I didn't slap anyone. My revenge was quieter than that. Worse than that. Because it was truth, and truth doesn't fade. I turned to the crowd. I won't keep you, I said, but I will say one thing. My mother built a safety net for me, and I honored it. I grew it. I protected it. I looked at my father again, and I won't allow anyone to use my name, my life, or my mother's memory as decoration for your parties. Then I reached into my folder and pulled out an envelope. I walked to my father and placed it in front of him. What's this? He asked. Horse, my resignation, I said. Ethan scoffed. Resignation from what? You don't work for us. I turned to him slowly. No, I said, but you've been treating me like I do, so consider this the end of your access to my time. Then, I faced Vanessa. And this, I added, is the beginning of your consequences. Vanessa looked like she might collapse. Olivia, please, don't do this here. I smiled, but there was no warmth. You didn't mind humiliating me here, I said. So why should I protect you? My father's voice cracked. Olivia, if this is true, I held up a hand. This isn't about what you will do, I said. It's about what you didn't do. Then, I turned and walked away. I didn't run, I didn't look back. I simply left them with the screen still glowing behind the cake, showing every number Vanessa tried to hide. 2 weeks later, my father called me. Not for a party. Not for appearances. For the first time in my life, it was a real call. Olivia, he said quietly, I filed a report. Vanessa is gone. I closed my eyes, feeling something loosen in my chest. And Ethan, I asked. A pause. He's angry. He blames you. I let out a slow breath. That's fine, I said. He can My father's voice broke again. I'm sorry for all of it. I wanted to believe him, but apologies don't erase years, so I said the truth. I accept that you're sorry, I said, but I won't pretend we're close. Not yet, he swallowed. Can we start over? I thought of my mother, of her careful handwriting in a notebook, of her quiet planning, of the way she always told me, never let anyone make you small, live. Yes, I said softly, but this time, I need you to see me. I do, my father whispered. I do. And for the first time, I believed he meant it, because losing something makes people pay attention. If you've ever been underestimated, laughed at, or treated like you only matter when you're useful, I want you to remember this. You don't need to prove yourself loudly. You just need to protect your peace and build your power quietly until the day it speaks for you. And when it does, let it speak. If this story hit home, tap like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, have you ever been judged unfairly? Then had your own they didn't see it coming moment.